Just to give the audience a little bit of context, well, there is a little bit of an irony that is unfolding right now, is that the current turmoil between Bongbong and Vice President Sara Duterte. Like, on one hand, we have the insinuations that part of Bongbong's unwavering pro-US stance is that the assets his father, I mean, these are insinuations, but the assets that his father plundered from the Filipino people are being held in the US and released subject to his compliance. So that could be an explanation, well, many reasons, but that could be an explanation for his incredible pro-US stance. But then on the other hand, we have the accusations leveled against VP Duterte for misusing public funds. And as of December 2nd, there has been an impeachment complaint filed against her. So it's definitely heating up. So yeah, can we sort of untangle what's going on right now, explain what led to the initial estrangement between them, and what you think this means for Filipino politics, and of course, the wider geopolitical implications of that?
Yes. Going back to the question earlier, no, just to clarify, no, and another reason why Bongbong Marcos had a landslide victory and why also Sara Duterte, despite the opposition of the former president, because the former president really was not in favor that Sara Duterte will tandem with Bongbong Marcos initially, because that was really very public. Former President Duterte really voiced out his opposition and he wanted Sara Duterte to run for president, I think, that time. Because really, Sara is the front runner. But I think Sara at that time was not prepared and she wants to have other things to do. So she settled for the vice president and had a tandem with Bongbong Marcos. The assumption also at that time, aside from the fact that Sara paired with him, so the Duterte votes went also with Bongbong Marcos, and of course you have the Marcos loyalists. Aside from that, the other reason that I said earlier that, we have this perception that, maybe they will change their course in terms of politics, that they will be good to the country, they will do something, they rectify their mistakes and all of these things. So that was an assumption, that was a mistaken assumption if you look at now what was going on in the country. The other one I think is during the campaign, Bongbong Marcos presented himself as a president that will follow the footsteps of former President Duterte, especially when you talk about foreign policy and what you call the Build program, which is actually the infrastructure program of the previous administration. So, but the most important, I think, is the foreign policy. He was saying that, he will continue an independent, balanced foreign policy that President Duterte started during his term. So people like me who always want my country to have a balanced foreign policy supported him precisely because he said that we will continue to be a friend of China and we will work with China. And also at the same time, of course, we will preserve our relationship with the United States, but we will stand on what you call national interest of the Philippines. He was always clear on that during the campaign. And so many Filipinos like me, which I was at that time not really sure if I will support Bongbong Marcos because of the history, the baggages of his family and of the name Marcos. So, but because of the foreign policy, he was saying, I would stand and I will be consistent with independent foreign policy and all of these things. And then if you look at the other candidates, most of them are pro-US or leaning towards the United States. So you have an alternative in there, and that's Marcos Jr. So the swing votes like me supported him and voted for him. On my side, really, it was because of the foreign policy. And I thought that he will follow through with his promises, that he will implement an independent, balanced foreign policy, and then he will continue the good economic relation between the Philippines and China. But after a year, or not even a year, everything changed. Everything changed, and his foreign policy, as you can see now, is really leaning to the United States and is very much influenced and even to a point of being controlled by the United States, that compromises everything that he said during the election time. None of his campaign promises really happened. Even the economic policies that he wants to implement and he promised during the campaign period. So that is now the situation. And on the other hand, I think the vice president also, the current vice president, Sara Duterte, was also deceived because from my analysis, I'm not sure because I don't know personally the vice president, but from my analysis only, I can sense that she also conceded to be in tandem with him because maybe she thought that all of these promises, campaign promises of Bongbong Marcos, was good for the country. But now it's really the reverse. Nothing happened to these promises, especially the foreign policy one. And it's really like a topsy-turvy thing that happened. So now, if you look at the domestic situation, it seems that the UNITEAM is not UNITEAM anymore. It was broken. And the current administration is trying to eliminate Sara Duterte, the vice president, from the political landscape because they're trying to prepare for 2028. The way I see it really is that the current administration and Bongbong Marcos, including his cousin Martin Romualdez, the Speaker of the House, and of course the wife is there also, being one player. The way I see it politically speaking is they want to perpetuate themselves in power, that they want to stay in power beyond 2028. So the only way for them to do that is to eliminate the front runner in the next presidential election, which is Sara Duterte. And on the other hand, how you gonna eliminate that? Only one way: to destroy the name of the vice president, to attack her politically speaking, to throw at her political harassments, including the impeachment. And now it's really true. There's already an impeachment filed against Sara Duterte, and I think next week another impeachment case will be filed against Sara next week by another group of people. But all of these are coordinated in many ways because in the domestic politics of my country, you can see the political forces. The reds are the left-leaning, the yellow, which is the Liberal Party of Aquino, and then the Marcoses are in one block. It's an unholy alliance as against the Duterte. So you can see, and the target is to eliminate in the political landscape the Duterte so that in the 2028 election, they can control it to a greater extent. And there's another one in there. They want to push through with what you call constitutional change. And they kind of want to change the constitution into a parliamentary. In a way, probably the House Speaker wants to also be the Prime Minister while Bongbong Marcos will be the President. Because at the moment, in our Constitution, the President has only one term. After one term, you cannot run anymore. So that's really clear in our Constitution. Now, if you want to stay in power, you need to change the Constitution into something that you can still run and control. So the only way for them to do that, to perpetuate themselves in power, is to change the Constitution. And they can only do that if they would eliminate all the political forces that go against them, like the Duterte. So that is why if you look at the current situation in my country, domestically speaking, they're really attacking politically the vice president because she is like the hindrance in their plan of being in power beyond the 2028 because the next presidential election is 2028. So that's a very crucial period. But I don't even think that we will have an election if they will change the constitution. Because if you change the constitution, then it's a parliamentary, the prime minister is not necessarily elected directly by the people, but by the parliament. So it's only the parliament that the people will elect. So they can control it to a greater extent. So the worst case scenario in my country with this political dynamics is a repeat of history, but in a modern, way modern time, I think. It's a repeat of history of the dictatorship and the martial law of the father who stayed in power 21 years. But this time it's worst. It's way worse compared the last time. And I think the father is way brilliant and intelligent than the son. So you see what I'm saying? So at least during that time, though we have a martial law, we have a dictatorship, there's a lot of development that was going on in the country. There were a lot of infrastructure development, agriculture, and all of these things in the first part of the martial law. But now, if you look at my country, there's a lot of bad things going on. Massive corruption is latent in the country, foreign policy that is not good for the country, an economy that is very challenged in every way, and I'm not sure, and our sovereign debt is increasing by the day, and I'm not sure if we're gonna be bankrupt in a matter of time. So, you know, these are the domestic situation, and you have a political tension going on that discourages investors, foreign direct investment to come in because no serious company, no serious foreign direct investment would come into a country that has a lot of problems, and there's a political tension and even a shadow that it will be engaged in a military conflict because of its foreign policy. So this is really a very bleak situation of the Philippines under a Marcos Jr. administration. And of course, the continuous political harassment against those people who supports the Duterte and supports the vice president and the vice president herself. So the vice president really is pushed to the wall at the moment. Lots of cases being filed against her. There is an impeachment filed against her. And even the budget of the vice president was reduced significantly to the point that I don't think she can do anything with her budget. And what I'm saying when you talk about budget is the budget of the office of the vice president. It was reduced to a greater extent that I think that budget would only be sufficient to pay for personnel. Other than that, I don't know if she can run her programs, which is social welfare. So these are really the situation. I feel that my country is like a ticking bomb that anytime it explodes. And then you have the geopolitical situation that the Philippines is also in the center of Russia, of America, of the China, of the maneuvering of all the superpowers, and we're in the middle because of American influence and American presence in my country. So that is so bleak that sometimes I don't know how it will change. But I think it will only change if there's a change in leadership, really, because everything is an issue of leadership. That's the way I see it. And that's why I analyze it. Because in our constitution and in our political system, the power really is in the hands of the president. Even how we define our foreign policy, the sole author, as far as our constitution is concerned, is the president. That's how it is. That's how powerful the president in my country. It's like a mirror image of America. Our constitution is a mirror image of the United States. Our politics is also a mirror image of the United States. So if the United States is crazy with their politics, expect the Philippines to have the same thing. Well, the Philippines is a mirror image in many ways. So you see, that's how we are right now. Yeah.